Hello. As you probably know, most mix engineers use bus compression and other processing on their stereo mix buses. Use of mix bus processing offers several advantages, and it is a key tool in most engineers' mix workflows. Unfortunately, mix bus processing is difficult to achieve in the Dolby Atmos mixing environment. Atmos offers 128 objects, and there's no easy way to process this many channels simultaneously with either a plugin or hardware processor. In this video, I will demonstrate how the new Waves Immersive Wrapper plugin makes Atmos mix bus processing far easier. In the video, I will create a 9.1.4 object bed and a single 9.1.4 master aux return on which Waves Immersive Wrapper and other plugins can be used for bus processing. Let's get started. So I am starting with a simple Pro Tools session. Close the render. There's only a single audio track here. It's actually an aux input. I've got the signal generator on it producing pink noise. I'm going to use that when I get to testing speaker outputs in the object bed. Let's go into the I/O and get going here. The I/O is basic and default as it would be if you hit default on all the tabs. Inputs are normal. Outputs are normal. Note that I am working in a 9.1.4 room here. If you are working in a smaller speaker configuration, 714, 51, whatever, just create it how for your room, your number. You do it down here. You pick your format down here. It doesn't matter for the rest of this video. Just make sure you're working in the channel count you are. Buses are default and normal. And the Dolby Atmos tab is all normal. Now, a special note here is the bed. The Dolby Atmos provides 128 objects, and the first 10 are dedicated to be the bed. And the bed is 712 with two front height speakers. Now, most of us seriously into Atmos use more height channels. In fact, so this room has 4 height channels and also has 2 wide channels. So the bed is limited to 712. There's no way in Atmos to change this from 712 to 914 or 714 or whatever. And that is the reason for this video. That's why I'm going to create a larger 914 object bed, and I'm not going to use the Atmos provided bed. So to do that, I'm going to go back to the bus tab and pick a spot in my list of buses to do this. Maybe I'll do it at the end. And I'll say new path. And I'm going to create 2 914. If your room is different, pick the number of your room loudspeaker configuration. 914 buses. Very important for this process is hit auto create subpaths. Totally important here. And hit create. And it's going to create 2 914 buses. And the first one, I'm going to call it mix bus. And this is what we're going to feed all of our channels to while mixing. And the second bus is going to be called object bed. And this is the bus that the output of the mix bus is going to feed into. And the object bed is going to split the outputs to all the different Dolby objects. Important here, your default output bus. You want to set it so anything new you create or import, any channels, that sort of thing, aux returns, whatever, they automatically feed this mix bus. You don't want them to feed the stereo outputs, which would bypass Atmos completely, or you go to the bed. You want them to go to the mix bus. So you do that here with default output bus tab. This is a very important button in Pro Tools. And I'm going to say that anything mono I create will automatically go to this mix bus. Mix bus. Anything stereo I create, stereo return, stereo track, I also want it to feed the, sorry, did that wrong there, stereo bus, mix bus. And you can go further down this list if you think you're going to be creating things of different format. For example, and I might create something 914. In fact, I will in a moment. I probably also want that to feed the mix bus. So you can get more elaborate. Really, just mono and stereo are the key ones here. So hit OK. And now I'm going to create a single stereo, nope, not stereo, 914 aux input. And create. This is going to be our mix bus master. And what's funny is it's actually going to, we want to undo its output. Its output Well, let's start at the input here. The input to it, whoops, I don't know what I just clicked. Ignore that. The input to the mix bus master will be the mix bus. The output from this master fader is going to feed the object bed. So this is a master fader. I'm going to call it mix bus. You can call it master. You can call it whatever. This is your master fader for your 914 mix bus. And I'm going to feed it off to the object bed. And I like putting all my tracks on the right side of my mixes in Pro Tools, my mix masters, kind of opposite of an analog console, but it's what I do. So I'm moving it over there. So my master bus mix master, it's all ready to go, but I need to make the object bed that this mix bus is going to feed into. So to make this object bed, the first thing I'm going to do is make Command-Shift-N 14 new mono aux inputs. Why 14? Well, I'm mixing in a 914 room, and there are 14 channels in 914. If you're in 714, this would be 12 channels. If you're in 5.1, this would be 6 channels, etc. So I've got 14. I'm going to create them, and there they are. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to organize these into a folder. Move to new folder. And I'm going to make a basic folder here. I'm going to name it object bed, and this is just for organizational purposes. I can hide and close this later on. I won't have to look at all these channels because they're going to be kind of hiding in the background. And these 14 channels, I'm going to select them again, and I want them to be sourced from the mix bus. I want the output of the mix bus to feed into them. And I already have the mix bus here routed to the object bed, but I need to source these channels from that bus there. So I'm going to use Command-Option-Shift. Command-Option-Shift, we call it the bear claw here at Nescom. And we're going to source it from the object bed channels, starting with bed left. Just to be very clear here, I'm going to take the first channel, aux1, and source its input, holding Command-Option-Shift down, and I'm going to get Option Bed L. And this cascades left, center, right, left wide, left side, left surround, right surround, LFE, left top high, all the way through the right top high, left top rear, and right top rear. It does all of the channels in the exact order that Pro Tools uses for 914. So with that done, they're all being sourced from the mix bus. It's time to name these. This takes a moment. So this is going to be left, and I'm going to use Command arrow here to go to the next channel. Right, center. Again, that's Command arrow to move through that. And up. Got to go back. I made a mistake right away. It's left, center, right. I had to put a little space in there to get those to be fixed. Left, center, right. Then left wide, LW for left wide. Then right wide. Then left side, right side, left rear, left surround, or less right rear. People use different abbreviations for these. LFE, that one's obvious. And then we're on to LTF, which is left top front. Then RTF, right top front. Then LTR for left top rear. And then RTR for right top rear. So you can name it however you want. But that's how I'm going to kind of following the little letters up here at the end of the object bed. That's what I was doing when I was naming it. So I've got them named now. And now the next thing to do is to route these off to Atmos objects. So I'm going to, using again the bear claw, Command-Option-Shift, I'm going to send them, and I'm going to start at object 11, because object 1 through 10 is already taken from the bed. So I'm starting at object 11 here, And again, I'm holding Command Option Shift down, and it will cascade through 14 different object numbers from 11 through 24. Now, I have to hold Option Shift now. That's due to selected. Everything is selected. I'm going to click the bus button. It's going to turn orange and become an object. So now these aux inputs are being fed from the mix bus. The mix bus is feeding the object bed, and here comes the object bed input. And then each one of these guys is individually going out to a different Atmos object. The one that needs to be different, however, is the LFE. I'm going to skip this object here, and I'm not going to send it to object 20. Instead, I'm going to send it directly to the bed. So I'm going to turn off object, kind of undoing what I did here, and send it to bed. So back to the 10-channel Dolby Atmos bed, and I'm going to send that directly to the LFE. So this one takes a direct path to the subwoofer channel. The rest of them are going through objects. Now, if I were to take the pink noise here, an important thing to do with this pink noise is I still have it feeding the original Dolby Atmos bed. So I need to feed the mix bus with this, the 914 mix bus. So now you can see the pink noise is coming into the bus, and therefore the bus is distributing it to the center channel because it's panned in the center of the object bed. If I mute the bus, it should disappear here. So this indicates that yes, the pink is indeed going through the bus and going to the object. We need to pan all these objects to their respective locations, in the Atmos renderer. So let's do that. To do that, we got to click on the panner for each of these channels. Here is left. And for left, I'm going to, click the little left speaker. Cool, that worked. Right, click the right speaker. Oh, that's center. I did that twice now. Right needs to be the right. Hello, is it there? There it is. Cool. Left wide. I do know the value here. It needs to be panned between this speaker and this speaker. And that is 68 steps backwards, 68 steps. So it's this guy right here, the front rear. It's 68 is the magic number. That is the same as the 914 wide speaker. And we'll have to do the same over here. Again, I'm going to pan it front to rear 68 while it's on the side. I kind of messed up. I needed to move that over there and then put it on 68. On the left side, it has to pan to the left side speaker, so easy macro there. Right side speaker. The left rear, that's an easy one. We got a little speaker down here. Right rear, speaker down here. LFE we skip. Left top up, we got to go upstairs. Woo! And that needs to be panned into the corners. That's an easy move. And I'll move this over here to make my travel time a little shorter. But height and to the right. And we're to the last two here. Go upstairs and go to the rear. And go upstairs, please. And go to the rear. So we have panned all the channels as needed. And this isn't, now I should be able to go to the pink noise, pull up its panner, and I should be able to see this kind of move between all the objects, both on the mix bus and the objects. If I want to go upstairs, of course, I pan upstairs and I'll be able to see it move around there. If I open up the Dolby Atmos render, window Dolby Atmos render, I should also see this pan around kind of in appropriate locations as well, which is kind of cool. Let me go back downstairs where it's a little bit more obvious. And you can see me pan to all these speaker positions. So that's kind of cool. They're very precise, right? This is not, so that's kind of cool. And you can also see here in this in the render that the original bed channel, the Atmos bed, the 10 channels, that's in brown. But these guys here, these 14, 11 through 24, they are my new 914 object bed. So it's pretty cool. Of course, a very important thing here while you're testing, make sure to use speakers so you know you don't have anything routed incorrectly. It's very, very easy to make mistakes while doing this, so take your time. And then a couple more last things to do. I've already put it in a folder, but maybe it'd be kind of nice to color code the folder and put them all in an Atmos group. So I'm going to open up the I/O, set up I/O. I'm going to take these objects I've created. So going to Dolby Atmos, really 11 through 24. You can see they're dark there. I'm going to take them and I'm going to put them into a group. I'm going to make a new group. I'm going to call this Object Bed and create a new one and give it a nice color. I think pink is good and obnoxious. And so there's an Object Bed group. Now I can do this effectively the third time around. Send them all to the Object Bed. What's cool about this is it will make all my objects pink in Pro Tools. And I might as well go ahead and take everybody in this folder and also make them pink. I forgot what pink I used. It's probably that pink. So this is kind of cool. You can now really clearly see everything is color-coded. When you're working fast, you'll know. And you can always hide your bed. You don't need to see this. This is going to be working in the background. A couple of more things to say about the Object Bed. I did create a video a couple years ago about how to use an Object Bed for bus processing. And it's kind of fascinating. It's quite complicated, but essentially you put limiters and compressors and or EQs or whatever you want for your bus processing on each one of these channels. And if you want them all to work together as a compressor, you have to take aux sends and feed them all to a side chain, which then you feed back into the limiters. It's quite complicated. Check it out if you're interested. In this situation, you don't have to do that because we're going to use the 914 aux return here, aux master with the immersive wrapper. There is one more thing to do though, and I have another video on this as well. You probably want to put a low pass filter on the LFE. My video goes into more depth about why you need to do this, but essentially a low pass filter of your choice, second order, third order. Second order probably is fine. And I put the cutoff frequency at 85 hertz. 80 to 85 hertz is a good spot. Watch my video if you're curious about why you want to do that. But anyway, with this all ready to go, with the Object Bed ready to go, it is time to dive into the Waves Immersive Wrapper and show how that can provide some really interesting solutions in your Atmos mix environment. So I want to show off the fancy new Waves Immersive Wrapper. So let's load that. Oops, I got to go up to the, ignore what I just did. Did I mess it all up? Yeah, I want to close that. That was an error. Get rid of that. What I want to do is put an object, a plugin here, a multi-channel native plugin, Waves Immersive Wrapper 914. And with that ready to go, you can load any Waves plugin into this, and it will automatically create a whole bunch of channels for whatever the size of this wrapper is. In this case, this wrapper is 914. So I like to use a SSL bus compressor. I'm old school. I like SSL bus compressors, so I'm going to pull up the SSL bus comp here. And as long as your Waves compressor of choice has a side chain, this will work. And the SSL bus compressor has a side chain, so this works. And so what it's essentially done is it's created 14 different SSL bus compressors. So I'm going to open up the pink noise. I'm going to crank up its level. And I'm going to pan it to a single channel here. Right now it's kind of in the middle, so let me pan it to a single channel. And if I look back at the immersive wrapper, you could see lots of level coming in the center channel. And that's cool. If I crank down the threshold, start seeing some compression engage. And what's interesting to note is that despite that it's coming in only on one channel, if I click through the different groupings, the front channels, they're still seeing the same amount of compression. Surround channels, the LFE, the tops, they're all getting compressed by the same amount. And that's because it's coming in on one channel, but that one channel and all the rest of the channels get mixed together with the side chain and then fed back into the side chain input of all the channels. So this makes a situation, which is a situation we want, where anything loud on any channel will trigger gain reduction on all the channels. And this tightens the mix. So every compressor on the bus here, they work together. And this is all achieved by this unique side chain. Before I show you the side chain, let me show you something obvious or important. If I click all and I make a change, all the channels follow with the same controls. But if I want to make independent controls, like surround has less gain reduction than the fronts, I can do that, which is cool. And if I go back to all and I tweak them all, the change is relative and the individuals adjust in a relative manner. So that's cool. You can have different parameters for each grouping. That's very important. Now back to the side chain. How do all these channels get mixed together? Well, you've got 6 side chains to work with, and by default, the plugin just uses 1, and I'll probably only ever use 1. But if I click on side chain 1, it shows what's feeding that side chain. And by default, all the channels except the sub are feeding the side chain. And that's useful. You probably don't want the sub, the LFE, compressing the tops. Now, Waves has decided that all the side chains should mix together at be fed together with attenuation of 24 dB. That keeps the sidechain bus from clipping, but I've found it that at Dolby Atmos mixing levels, this makes the parameters, means I have to really bring the threshold pretty low to get even moderate compression. So what I have found is, and I've only used this plugin for about a week now, I may be wrong about this, but I have found that I need to gain up these sidechain feeds. So double click on them, and I'm going to gain them all up to -10. So it's a little bit laborious at first, this process, but obviously, once you've got it set for your bus, make a template out of it, and it'll be fine. So I'm going to crank through here, set up each individual feed from each individual channel's input will all be attenuated by -10, feeding the sidechain. Now I should be able to achieve a lot more gain reduction, and I can put this knob into a more appropriate location. Okay, that's the feed into the sidechain. The feed out from the sidechain, if you click on sidechain mixer, you can feed how much of the sidechain goes to all, or to the fronts, or the surrounds, or the LFE. So this level here is how much sidechain goes to the separate sections. And probably in most situations, you'll just leave that at unity, which you can option click and move back to. And you can have more sidechains, so you can have really complicated feeding, and that's way beyond the scope of this. So that's a basic tutorial of Waves Immersive Wrapper. Now, more advanced things you might want to do with Waves Immersive Wrapper. In an Atmos environment, you may want to have multiple wrappers in succession on your master bus. I find that often I need an EQ on my master bus, so I can darken the overall mix. I find that my Atmos mixes end up getting a little bright at times. So if I make a second immersive wrapper and I will load some sort of EQ plugin. Now, this is an important moment. I should mention, because I don't think I clearly mentioned it earlier, that Waves Immersive Wrapper only works with Waves plugins, and it only loads plugins you already own. So you need to own Waves plugins in order for the wrapper to work. So they sell this to you in 2 places, and it won't work with other brands' plugins. So I do hope that some other manufacturer makes a wrapper that you can use any plugin. That would be awesome. But at the moment, this is only available with Waves plugins. So I was going to brighten or darken the overall mix. Boom. By turning that down, I've now done that on all channels. So this is something you may want to try, is having multiple wrappers in a row. Going one step further, I often in my stereo bus production, when I'm mixing in stereo, I like to follow the SSL, which is doing just a little bit of compression. I often follow that with a hard limiter, like a look-ahead limiter that has a very precise output level. So I might want to have a third Waves immersive wrapper here and load a hard limiter. But something I discovered really quickly here when I was experimenting with the immersive wrapper is that Waves look-ahead limiters, their L series, L1, L2, L3, etc., they do not have a side chain in the plugin, so you cannot benefit from the ability of all the channels to sidechain into a common sidechain and feed each other. So these limiters will all work by themselves independently. In this case, only the center channel is going to be limited, the other channels will not. And I find that a serious limitation, and hopefully Waves will update their plugins, their limiters, to have sidechains. I can, however, if I want to, I can go use my old friend, my choice limiter, which is the FabFilter L2. This one has some side chaining between the surround channels and the center channel, but I'm not going to go over that. That's kind of complex in this video. All right, one last thing. I know the video is long, but there's one last thing to talk about. In your workflow, as you're mixing, as long as you send all of your channels to the mix bus, it will feed the object bed, and everybody will be happy, and everybody will go through the Waves Immersive Wrapper. Now, oftentimes in Atmos, we want to use we want to send our channels to an individual object. So say I have a audio input coming in here, and I want to send it to an object because I want to take advantage of panning, automated panning, that sort of thing. So if I feed it to an object, let's pick object 28, and send it off to the object, I have my panning working. This is no longer feeding the mix bus. It is bypassing the object bed and going directly into the renderer. This is a problem. If I take my lead vocal and I bypass the mix bus, my lead vocal will not get attenuated by these plugins. Now, Waves has an awesome solution for this. I'm just going to drag and drop, holding Option here, and I'm going to bring the immersive wrapper over to that channel. And I've brought over the compressor with all the settings I had on it. In fact, if I go between the two, you'll see the settings are the same. So option dragging just allowed me to keep the parameters the way I had them. But go back to the main compressor here on the mix bus and make a group out of it. New. SSL 1. If I go over to the copy on this individual channel and I assign it to SSL 1, they will now share settings and sidechains, which is really cool. Do note, however, that Waves Immersive Wrapper does appear to be a little buggy with its sidechain. I had to stop the video while making it. I option drug the plugin over to this supposed vocal channel, and the sidechain wasn't functioning. So demonstrate that again, drag it over, replace, change. Now it's working. I had to reload a mono plugin, mono copy of the Immersive Wrapper, and that erased all my settings, but then I option drug the plugin back on top of itself, and then the sidechain was functioning. So as of summer 2025, you may have to reload if you are going to if you're going to add an individual channel to a group, you may need to do it a couple times because it's a little buggy. But anyway, the bottom line here is that this is really powerful because now you can have individual channels that are assigned to their own objects, not going to the mix bus, but they have the same compression and or EQ on them if that's what you want on your master bus. So in summary, this is perhaps the longest video I've ever created for YouTube. This is a very powerful piece of software, Waves Immersive Wrapper, and allows you to do some wonderful things to a master bus in Atmos. So happy Atmosing to you all. Talk to you soon. Goodbye.